Living in California since childhood, I'm a refugee after unjust actions of a famous tyrant. Part of my soul remains buried in Nicaragua, the sacred land of my birth. From there, a strong and distinct voice calls, waking me every night with the same dream, where the years 2024 and 1776 are engaged in an esoteric battle for the right to oppress Nicaragua, a once strong, vibrant, and evolving nation. There are times when I wake at midnight, my spirit trembling with horror. This dream robs me of my sleep. It begins like this. Floating outside my body, I hear a sigh that leaves my lungs empty, yet feeling full of bitterness, like being soaked in wet dog dew. First, the year 2024, its voice soft and calm, its face hidden behind a white, unmarked mask. But I sense in its eyes the world within where he exists. Without much effort, he declares, with great confidence, exactly how it is that well behaved people are to behave in order to serve well and become citizens united. Without much effort, he declares with great confidence exactly how. And he looks at me with those eyes. I feel an overwhelming chill to the bone. He says that well behaved citizens are offered the hope that our sins against the state will be forgiven, resulting in the constant opening of great opportunities for us, the good citizens. Our efforts may deserve a life shaped by our ideas of liberty, with strong, pure, and natural honor. A life like that of our strong leader. I will live a life filled with joy and luxury, doing work of importance. But we all know that the devil watches from behind a dark shadow, laughing at us because he knows all too well the trials of history, the Pact of Sabana Grande, the arrangements of Versailles, the reconstruction of the southern United States after the Civil War, etc. That guy, he knows more being old than he does just from being the devil. He knows that many, like vultures, seize the first chance to rob the hardworking people, justifying or ignoring the suffering and the rivers of tears shed by the humble and honorable Nicaraguan people. In the end, a few of those deplorable bastards will feast on the now divided and barely alive, well behaved people who they abandoned. It seems like that was the primary intention to begin with. Well fed, the tyrants imagined themselves to have lived as members of the strong, dignified Nicaraguan people. But chiseled in their soul is only the image of lies and doubt that accompanies tyrants in their eternal loneliness. In my dream, standing nearby, a statue onto which someone mistakenly poured a large minimal portion from a bottle labeled Essence of Life, presenting its own speech, is the famous year 1776, speaking enthusiastically, its red, white, and blue uniform clean and perfectly pressed, moving only the large lid that serves as his mouth. Nearby, listening with great interest, I barely recognized the shadow of a youthful 1893, dressed in torn khakis, a proud white color with a light blue trim. I have been thinking of him. The statue, meanwhile, talks, and then he speaks, and then he talks, never finishing with the grand promises. First, he tells us that certain universal rights exist and that one does not need to earn them. These rights are mine, sacred, inescapable blessing, mine simply for having been born. the natural right to liberty and freedom that every human being deserves, a right to reap without limit the fruits of my labor, and to create and profit from the utility of my creations, without hindrance of unjust regulations, without fear of a capricious government. With no rest he speaks, never thinking, or ever mentioning or acknowledging that we are all brothers, each equally responsible for the well being of the other, perhaps more so for the well being of others than oneself. Growing impatient, the devil demands that I immediately decide to serve the corrupt, shifty year 2024, or 1776, a naive fool, or the devil himself. Out of the shadows, glowing, a pale, ghostly presence emerges, dressed in Confederate linens. I think Walker is what they called him, his eyes burning with a fever of hell. He, like all tyrants, did not speak of rights, but of destiny, of a land ripe for his conquest, a land where his name would be engraved upon the wounded soil of our precious Nicaragua, by the fire of Momotumbo, with the sacred blood of our humble people. Not wanting to serve the devil and sensing something evil behind Walker's presence, I make one last desperate effort to convince the three of them to leave me in peace. Begging but not crying, I declare firmly that without a doubt the most correct solution for my beloved Nicaraguan people clearly is 1893, that historic year when Dr. Luciano Gomez, along with other strong patriotic men of honor, completed the work of the distinguished Junta of July and presented us with the peace agreement, which also offered a plan of clear action for the future. Their inspired vision offered the citizenry of Nicaragua the opportunity to build for themselves a representative democracy, maybe even a progressive political party. 1893, in a humble yet powerful voice, responds: we will succeed if we implement the proposals that were offered. Perhaps we will owe a debt for certain possibilities that will have to wait to be completed by citizens of tomorrow's future, improved upon by the lessons which were paid so dearly for. In the VIP area of the audience, Professor Ben Franklin sat with the man known as the Nicaraguan George Washington, General George Lava Tonelada. Ben said to him without emotion, "You may have a republic, and if you respect and protect it as it matures, I know that it will then protect and respect you and your countrymen for many years to come." Don Lava Tonelada, in a low voice, replied that the opportunities of 1893 were squandered due to backstabbers and regional rivalries. Those in this current year of 2025 are so very similar to those of 1893. I pray we benefit from lessons whose cost we already paid so dearly for. Let not tomorrow's future be sacrificed once more. Disoriented but awake, I recall that in July of 1893, Dr. Gomez, President Zelaya, and the humble Nicaraguan people dreamed of a united homeland, perhaps even with a left, a right, and progressive party. I am exhausted. Still, I look forward with confidence to the day when I sleep the entire night, dreaming healthy dreams. And who knows, I might even be well accompanied. I am the Pocho Nicoya. Thank you for granting me these few moments.